What's going on, everybody? This is Living in Arizona Now, and today we're going to compare Phoenix, Arizona, and Seattle, Washington. This video comes about because of popular demand due to the fact that both of these cities are very popular with people. I recently went to Seattle. I was up there for a few days, and obviously I live in Arizona. The first thing I'm going to talk about in the video is going to be the comparison between the COVID response, the mask and all that, and I'm going to compare that situation and how that panned out also with the situation with the civil unrest. And so I'm going to compare both of those two things in this video in the beginning, and then I'll talk about the population, the people, the environment, and all that. So if you're just tuning in for that part of it with the COVID and the pandemic and the civil unrest, we'll start out with that. So we'll get that off the chest so you guys can move on and watch something else if you want, or you could stick around and watch the whole comparison. If this is your first time to Living in Arizona Now, you guys can subscribe and turn on the bell to get notified when new videos come out. And thank you to the 4 people who are already crushing up the likes. Sacha says they already live in Seattle. So you'll be able to provide some information in the comments about Seattle. And for those of you with experience between Seattle and Phoenix, you guys can also drop comments and make this into a dialogue as time goes by. People can reference and ask questions in the comments. So the first thing I would say about the response to the pandemic, it is different. I mean, big time. Even Eastern Washington, where Spokane is, and Western Washington, where Seattle and Tacoma is, 2 totally different approaches to how they handle it. In Seattle, they are very strict with it. I mean, the mask thing, they take it very serious. They are not playing games with COVID at all. They wear masks when they just walk and hike. So when you're hiking and walking, they're wearing masks. Out here in Arizona, no, they're not doing that. The only time you'll wear a mask pretty much in Arizona or in Phoenix in general is when you're going inside somewhere pretty much, or if you're in an Uber. Anytime you're inside any sort of capsule, that's a big thing. But the response in Seattle, it's very strict. When it comes to the outrage over the law enforcement and the institutional law enforcement, Seattle is very serious about changing the whole law enforcement situation in America, and they stand by that. As you guys know, there was the situation where they took over the police department out there, and so they have a very strong feeling about that. Out here in Arizona, it's not so much against law enforcement. They're more quote unquote back the blue. So those were things that just stood out right off the bat that you might not take into consideration, but I would say Phoenix is far more freer in this, as free as you could get in the situation, where Seattle's more like, hey, they need to be able to tell you what to do, and you need to do as your superiors tell you to. So that was big. I mean, that was something that caught me off guard, because they were so strict about it in Seattle, whereas in Arizona it was kind of like, hey, you know what you need to do. We're not going to sit here and tell you. I mean, I even went into a restaurant in Seattle, and they were trying to teach me how to wear my mask. Like the bartender was like this, up higher, over the nose. And I was like, oh, okay. Thank you for teaching me how to wear the mask correctly. Something like that. It was just kind of interesting. Obviously, when I went over to Eastern Washington, not so strict. Now, in terms of comparing the 2 cities, okay, so the Seattle metropolitan area population is around about it's around about 4 million. Okay, Phoenix is a little bit bigger in terms of metro area, and also the city of Phoenix. So they call it well, actually, the population of Seattle is about 4 million. It's the 15th largest metropolitan area in America. But the city of Seattle is actually kind of small, and it's not very big compared to Phoenix. Phoenix has 1.5 million, and Seattle has about 688,000. But because Kings County and all the surrounding islands and areas like Tacoma and Bellevue, that all adds into the metro population. The median household income in Seattle is quite a bit more than you would make in Phoenix, because they have big companies like Amazon, Boeing, and Microsoft there in the Seattle metro area. So it's about $67,000, $68,000 a year for the average median household income. Obviously, people who work at the restaurants and stuff as baristas, they probably don't make as much, but the majority of that big wealth is coming from those big tech companies that are up there in Seattle, whereas Phoenix is just under $50,000 for the average median income. Now, Seattle does have an older population. So the average age in Seattle is 36, and that's pushed up a lot because they do have a lot of older people. Phoenix is 32 years old, 33 years old. So just to put things into perspective, though, the average age in the United States is 37. So both are under the age average for the nation. When it comes to home prices, though, this is where Phoenix is going to really stand out. The average home price in Phoenix Metro is around about $240,000 to $300,000 as of early 2020. But as you know, values are going up, but they're also going up in Seattle. Seattle's values are really booming too. But as this was put out in early 2020, $715,000. Now, when it comes to the unemployment rate, Phoenix does have a little bit higher unemployment than Seattle. Seattle just sitting at around about 3%, Phoenix sitting around 5%, national average being 3.7%. So if you're looking for a good job, it seems like Seattle's the place to be. If you're looking for affordable housing and cost of living, Phoenix is the place to be. Now, here's where things get really different for me from my personal experience. Seattle and Phoenix are two totally different cities. They're not even comparable. You want to talk about polar opposites? They're literally polar opposites. Seattle sitting on Cascadia plates, right there in Puget Sound, right next to the volcano of Mount St. Helens. And then they have the other big mountain. I can't remember the name of it right now. My gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Someone tell me in the comments what the name of that other big mountain is. But Mount St. Helens, as you know, was a volcano that erupted, typically has snow on the top of it. Thanks to everyone who's already crushed up the likes, all 13 of you. And then, so Phoenix, being that it sits in the desert Southwest, is in a arid climate. It's not near an ocean, and that does stand out. Yeah, Jane just said Mount Rainier. That's what it is. It is Mount Rainier. So thank you. Also, Magic Laura for saying that. But yeah, so Phoenix and Seattle, two totally different lifestyles. I mean, they're worlds apart. It's very green, it's lush, it's cold, it's overcast in Seattle. Phoenix is sunny like over 300 days out of the year. They've got desert, and just the homes. I mean, the home living lifestyle and all that is just completely different. So if you're someone who's from the Pacific Northwest, moving to Phoenix is going to feel really different. And it would feel really different if I moved to Seattle. Sitting on the Puget Sound, they've got that ocean and that kind of like brackish water that they have there. You could take ferry boats to, I think it's called Port Angeles. They have Bremerton and Bainbridge Island that you can take a ferry boat on. So just being coastal, being in the higher part of the country, in the Pacific Northwest, Phoenix being lower in the desert Southwest, two totally different lifestyles. I mean, that really stands out as something right off the top that you could also mark down as like totally different. The benefit to the thing that I did like about Seattle was they have seafood. I like seafood. The thing I like about Phoenix is they have a lot of Mexican food, which I do like that, so it's like one or the other, but you're going to get good food. I would say, though, Seattle might have a little bit more of a better food scene. Just overall, they have more of an eclectic scene. It is also more diverse in the way that they approach things. They're a more diverse, sophisticated culture than Phoenix. Phoenix is more relaxed, like get out there and be a desert person, live out in the desert, off-road and all that. I'm not saying they don't do that in the Pacific Northwest, but it's definitely a big difference from what I've observed. And someone said Seattle coffee. Seattle coffee's out there, and they also have, I think that's the headquarters of Starbucks, right? So a lot of these big companies have started out of Seattle. Now, when it comes to downtown Seattle versus downtown Phoenix, downtown Seattle is much more interesting than downtown Phoenix. Phoenix is more urban sprawl, Lake Washington and all that. It's more condensed, but it's like you don't have to drive everywhere. We just posted a meme on our group, Living in Arizona Now. For those of you who are in our group, Living in Arizona Now on Facebook, it says Phoenix. To get to Phoenix, living in Phoenix takes you an hour to get to Phoenix. So you'll be in Phoenix and you'll drive an hour just to get from one end of Phoenix to the other end of Phoenix, and you're still driving. Seattle, you can go from like where Lake Washington is right to downtown in a matter of 15 minutes, and you can go north or south to Tacoma. Tacoma is, I would say, not one of their better suburbs. Definitely Bellevue and some of those other areas around that area are definitely what we would have out here in Phoenix being Paradise Valley or Scottsdale. That's where the big money is in Phoenix. But for $1.2 million, what you get in Scottsdale compared to what you get in Bellevue, totally different. I mean, you're going to get way more bang for your buck in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley. If you like sunshine, you need to be in Phoenix. If you like rainy days and cold weather, you need to be in Seattle. Now, the interesting thing that I found out about Seattle is people think it snows in Seattle, and it really doesn't. They get a lot of overcast weather, but it doesn't really snow there, and it doesn't snow in Phoenix. But I would say that I was surprised to find out that it's not too bad in Seattle. I heard like even in December, January, all you really need is a nice coat and some trousers, and you should be fine. Whereas in Phoenix in December or January, it's not too uncommon to be wearing short sleeves and possibly even shorts in December and January. Obviously, we get some colder days mixed in there, but it's still pretty good. Jim Dandy says the summers in Seattle are actually pretty sunny. Yes, Seattle does get a nice bit of sunshine in the summertime. And obviously south of Seattle, beyond Tacoma, you get into Portland, which is also kind of the same kind of climate. Very nice, beautiful springs too. But I would say even from Portland to Seattle, it is different. The woods start changing and becoming more of a rainforest up in Seattle, whereas you definitely get that kind of woods down in Portland, but it's not quite what it is in Seattle. Seattle gets really tall trees and just even probably a different type of pine tree. So we'll keep talking about some more things in the comparison here. In terms of crime, that's another thing that people are really big into. Phoenix does have a little bit more violent crime, but Seattle has more property crime. So Phoenix has just a little bit more violent crime than Seattle. The national average, both cities are over the national average in terms of violent crime. When it comes to the property crime, both are above average in property crime, but surprisingly, Seattle does get a bit more property crime by a considerable amount. So I would say in terms of safety, it depends on where you are in Seattle and it depends on where you are in Phoenix. But a lot of people consider, at least the locals that I was talking to in Seattle, considered it to be a pretty safe place. When it comes to the transportation, Seattle has a pretty good freeway system. It's not like Phoenix freeway system, though. I mean, the Phoenix freeway system is one of the best you'll ever find anywhere in the country, if not anywhere in the world. It's just the thing that Seattle has is a fairly decent public transportation system with the light rail. Like you can literally ride the light rail from the airport down to downtown Seattle, and it'll take you 20 minutes. Phoenix, you can't quite do that. It'll take you from they're getting ready to build it to where it'll take you from down the airport all the way to, say, Tempe or even maybe out to Mesa if you need to. But it's going to take you a lot longer. But it won't go up to Scottsdale. It won't go out to West Phoenix just yet. So public transportation, I would say they definitely have that up in Seattle that done a little bit better. When it comes to pro sports and just entertainment and stuff, both are pretty comparable. The thing that I guess it depends. Do you like when you go out and entertain yourself, do you like to bundle up or do you like to like dress down in t-shirt, it's going to be warmer climate in Phoenix. So you're going to dress down. You're not going to need to bundle up. Whereas if you go out in Seattle, it's bundling up. Some people really enjoy that though about Seattle where, you can bundle up. Just in case you're curious, Seattle's nickname is the Emerald City. Phoenix is known as the Valley of the Sun. So we're a lot more arid out in Phoenix than they are up in the Emerald City. Another thing that you can take a look at is health, the overall health of the population through the air quality and whatnot. Seattle's going to have better air quality. I mean, you feel like you're getting a lot of oxygen when you're up in the Pacific Northwest, don't you? Thanks to the 20 people who already crushed up the likes of 24 people. And then I'm going to read some of these comments. Desert Rider says, Tucson has bad crime, everyday shootings, looting, etc. Okay, Tucson, yeah. Washington is still arid, though. There are some areas of Washington that are arid, but again, we're just focusing on Seattle. West of those mountains, I don't know if they're the Cascade Mountains or the Rockies. They might even be the Canadian Rockies. I don't know. But Eastern Washington is completely different than Western Washington in terms of the people and just the overall feel. Whereas for the most part, all around Arizona, people are very similar. Tucson people are like Phoenix people, but Spokane people are not so much like Seattle people. I went over to Coeur d'Alene. For those of you who've never been there, that's a very beautiful place. I also have another channel called Island Hopper TV. I did a video from Coeur d'Alene, Boise, and Seattle. If you guys want to go over and check those out after this video, you can check out. I'll put a link to Island Hopper TV in the comments. But that's where I made those videos, and you can see firsthand what it looked like in Seattle here recently. Because a lot of people, when I told them I was going to Seattle, they're like, "Are you sure you want to do that? They're having riots out there," and I didn't see very many riots at all. I would say that people in Phoenix are more relaxed. People in Seattle were more edgy. They were like, they were. You could tell they were kind of like, "Are you on the same team that I'm on?" Kind of like look you in the eye, like, you know. And people are wearing masks all the time, so you can't really see anything else on their face. But you could tell they were a little bit more edgy than the people in Phoenix, where it was just kind of like live and let live. Seattle was more like, you stand for what I stand for, right? And like their eyes like speak volumes about that kind of mentality. Jane says, did I go to McCall, Idaho? No, there's a lot of places in Idaho. I mean, we could save that for another day. I could probably compare Arizona and Idaho because those are two very comparable places in terms of where Californians are moving, aren't they? I mean, all these Californians are leaving California and they're going to places like Idaho, Colorado, Texas, and Arizona. But when it came to Idaho, they were very much like Arizona people. I mean, the people in Idaho are very similar, except they're more like up in the higher altitudes. But in terms of like the way they approach freedoms and civil liberties and rights and stuff, about how they want to keep the government kind of out of their business, and like they're more like free market capitalists, where in Seattle, it's kind of like we're all in this together. Let's stick together and try and figure this out. Even though there is a great income inequality, it's kind of weird because it's like you got billionaires getting along with people who are not even close to thousandaires, and they're all kind of on the same page. So they've done a really good job of melting those two together. In his presence says, love Phoenix personality, good word for us, live and let live. Yeah, it is a very much live and let live, as long as your dog's not trying to poop on my my front porch or anything like that, you know. But pretty much it is live and let live out here. Jim Dandy says Phoenix is lacking in advanced medical centers except for Barrows and Mayo, but even those aren't like UCLA, etc. Yeah, I mean, they do probably have a better healthcare system up in Seattle than they do have in Phoenix. But like you did mention, Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale is one of the best medical facilities in all of the country. So that's pretty good. Let's see. Based.oz says, live and let live if you are conservative, seems like. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, but there is a political dynamic that exists that probably does. It's kind of like, hey, as long as you could come to Arizona as long as you're conservative. You could come to Washington as long as you're liberal. But if you're one of the other ones, they're kind of like, no. And they have no problem letting you know that they have a problem with that. Yeah, I see what you're saying, COVID 1984. 2 Mayo clinics in Scottsdale. Yes, they do. Magic Laura says, yes, the people of Seattle are edgy. Yeah. Christy says, medical centers in Phoenix, concentration of fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. Okay, I didn't know about the chronic fatigue thing, but that's kind of interesting to hear that. It's easy to get lost driving in Seattle. If you make a wrong turn, it could take a half hour to get back. Yeah, I can see what you're saying about that. Even if you go north or over the side towards Bremerton, it can get a bit confusing. And especially if you have to put your car onto a ferry boat, a high-speed ferry, that can be even more challenging too. Sharpstone says, but people in Idaho much cooler. Yeah, people in Idaho are much more relaxed. But anyway, I just wanted to make this this dialogue here for people who are considering moving to Seattle, or people who live in Seattle considering moving to Phoenix, or vice versa. It seems like there's more people moving from Seattle down to Phoenix. Phoenix is the fastest growing metropolitan area, Maricopa County being the fastest growing. Kings County is growing. It is growing fast, but it's not growing so fast. Oh, one more thing I wanted to kind of point out. Seattle is named after the Native American chief Seattle. That was the chief that was in the area, I believe. I'm not going to say Lewis and Clark, but when the settlers arrived in Seattle, Seattle's got a lot of history. They have an underground and everything. Phoenix has an underground, but Seattle's underground is actually a big thing. But that's where Seattle gets its name, named after Chief Seattle. Phoenix is named after the phoenix rising bird, rising from the ashes because of the old Ho'okam Native American civilization that used to be here. When the settlers arrived, they could easily tell that there was a big civilization in the Phoenix Valley of the Sun area. And that's why they said they're, it's like a new civilization rising from the old civilization. That's where Phoenix gets its name. So just those two things right there, I thought were kind of worth pointing out. And I meant to point it out earlier, but I forgot. There is an Indian tribe over in the Kingston area. Yes. Okay. But yeah, so I just wanted to make this video. Thanks to 29 people who crushed up the likes and everyone who watched. And if you guys missed this video early on, you guys can go back and play it and check out my other channel, Island Hopper TV.